Good morning, Council President Klein, President Pro Tem Tyson, Councilmember Brown, Councilmember Stiziano, and Councilmember Page, Dr. Long, Miriam, and guests. My name is Delina Scales. I work as a Celebrate One community connector in the Linden community, a community I grew up in and love. In my professional role, I have the privilege of seeing the impact of trauma firsthand on our residents and their families. The daily stressors of unemployment, violence, overdoses, substance abuse, and infant mortality, just to name a few, plague my community. Trauma, we all experience on some level, on large and small scales. But it is when a community has the support and understanding that we are able to transition through trauma and traumatic experiences. That's why I am thankful for this initiative. That's why I'm thankful that you are in my backyard. It is your support that is the important piece of this puzzle. So I thank you in advance for the work that you are about to embark on to make Linden a healthier, safer place to live, work, and worship. Thank you. I am grateful in advance. Now I have the pleasure of introducing a neighborhood champion and a friend of the Linden community, Council President Klein.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. I think this is a tremendous time in our city of dealing with issues that are affecting us, specifically trauma and violence. Can't kid ourselves that violence is on the rise nationally, and Columbus is not immune to this. Our community is dealing with high homicides rates, increased shooting incidences, and overall violent acts that are simply not good for our neighborhoods. And we're tackling violence and the root cause of violence in many ways: effective policing efforts, policies to address socioeconomic justice issues, and through programs that we're announcing today, violence as a public health issue. Research shows that trauma can be inflicted in one's life through various ways: societal conditions, living conditions, and through crime and violence. The reality is, when there's violence and crime in a community, there's also trauma. And that trauma can affect neighborhood stability and growth, and it can lead to more violence. We believe that the larger violent acts that are occurring in our communities are only exacerbated by trauma and its effect. Trauma that people are harboring inside with no way to get the treatment that they need. Coping with trauma that one is concealing tends to manifest itself in increased violence. We must address trauma head-on and begin looking at violence as a public health issue. The data supports this. We must utilize clinical health professionals, community leaders, and neighborhood leaders to identify those who are attempting to cope with trauma but are unable to have their mental health needs addressed. That's why my colleagues and I on council, I'm joined here by President Pro Tem Tyson, Councilmember Elizabeth Brown, and Councilmember Stiziano, but also have the overwhelming support of Councilmember Harden, who's out of the country, and Councilmember Page, Councilmember Mitch Brown, are joining forces with the Department of Health and their Community Care Coalition to develop a pilot program that will focus on Linden and Hilltop. We'll bring community leaders, faith leaders, neighborhood leaders, and professionals together to put boots on the ground in our communities. Now, this is a pilot program that, after the next 9 to 11 months, we'll take the results of which and figure out how we can make this program better. Now, Linden and Hilltop are big geographic areas. We recognize that. So we're going to use real-time data to figure out where violence is highest and concentrate our efforts there. We're going to take Department of Public Health personnel who are going to be charged, one with the Linden area and one with the Hilltop area. And we're going to measure this through real-time interactions, community meetings, door knocks, gatherings, interactions, but there's also going to be an anecdotal feeling to it. Can you feel the difference in your community? Have you seen these interactions take place? I view this through a proactive lens and a reactive lens. The proactive lens are rolling up your sleeves, getting dirty in the community, working with community leaders, faith leaders, church leaders, business leaders in a community, so that when a traumatic event is occurring or has happened, we can deal with those traumatic issues. We can educate each other, do trauma-informed care to get people the help they need, especially our children. There's also a reactive when an event does happen, that this group can be part of the process to intervene to help those who are experiencing trauma in real time and hopefully to prevent violence. I really want to thank Department of Health and Dr. Long for the partnership that she has forged with the City Council. I can't underscore enough how important this initiative is to the Columbus City Council, which is why all the members that are here are present. This is something that we firmly believe in. We know that we cannot police our way out of this problem. Policing is important, but there are other aspects of this that we have to deal with, and this is an important one. So at this time, I want to bring up our co-champion on this, Dr. Teresa Long from the Columbus Department of Public Health. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Council President Klein, members of council. And honestly, it's very exciting to be here today, and we really appreciate your support of the Columbus Care Coalition. And Delana, thank you. Marion, I'll introduce in a moment, but Delana, you helped set the stage for this important work. For when trauma happens, oh my goodness, I'm seeing everybody. So when trauma happens to one person, one family, one neighborhood, it happens to all of us. And the Columbus Care Coalition is a collaborative, a community effort that is led by Columbus Public Health, but it is about helping, learning, and supporting our community through difficult times. The seeds of this coalition actually were planted back in 2015 when there was a triple homicide on the Hilltop. Some of our residents reached out to us and said, we're hurting. And so we fielded a team of social workers together with NetCare and our police in that area. And we walked the neighborhood. We chatted with residents. And we heard from the community that they did need help. They wanted someone to listen to them. They wanted someone to, again, both check in on them, see how they were doing, and to be sure that they had resources to help them cope through this time. So this informal team, again, helped us think about what else. As we listened to the residents, as we debriefed as a group, we realized that our residents had, in some cases, become numb to the violence and the losses, the continuing losses that have been happening in many of their lives. They also told us that many others were even either more numb or wouldn't even seek resources because they too had realized that their experiences, while they weren't sure if they were shared, they knew that they were at a loss, that they were hurt, and they felt either ignored or forgotten. And that is clearly our takeaway from the tragedy then, but we have now felt a responsibility to continue and to create opportunities for parts of our community that are hurt or are hurting and are overburdened by trauma to, again, come together as a community, because together we can be stronger as a whole. But again, if our residents are struggling and have needs, we need to support them. So in response, we formed the Columbus Care Coalition. You will hear what CARE stands for in a moment, back in 2016 to engage, to support, to educate both Columbus residents who experience trauma, as well as many community organizations who serve those residents, such as our mental health partners, our community organizations, and our city government partners. This coalition has come together again now to increase education about trauma-informed care, to create an infrastructure to quickly respond to traumatic events, as Council President Klein just mentioned, to quickly respond to traumatic events that occur in our community, and again, to engage residents in our community who are experiencing trauma and inequity, to increase their resiliency, both as individuals, as families, and as neighborhoods. It is important, and you will learn more around trauma-informed care, to realize that trauma happens, to again recognize that it can change behaviors, that we have a responsibility, all of us, to respond thoughtfully with these sorts of awareness and approach, and again, not to re-traumatize individuals, neighbors, or neighborhoods. So the coalition has come together with over 100 individuals, many organizations. We are maximizing those partnerships. There are assets and resources already coming together, again, in a coordinated response, because we know that trauma care and response has to happen beyond the walls of any one of our organizations. And again, let me just state, this is so important because no one is immune to trauma. The data shows us that at least 90% of us will experience one key traumatic event, emotionally upsetting in our lives. And I would assure you that one traumatic event, whether it's right here in Linden or Manchester, England, makes us all realize that we are all connected in this. The research also shows that when our children or the rest of us are exposed to adverse experiences, life experiences, it does impact our health and well-being. We're more likely to have, 4 times more likely to have depression, 32 more times more likely to have social and behavioral issues. And again, we know that traumatized persons are more likely or have an increased risk of incarceration, of substance abuse, and of early death, having a lower life expectancy. So again, in neighborhoods, as has been mentioned, that are frequently affected by traumatic events, be that gun violence, poverty on an ongoing basis, homelessness, crime, drug use, the risk of trauma is much greater. So public health, as you've heard before, is not a solo act. This is about all of us. This is a team effort coming together, working together to empower and hold up and lift up our residents and our entire neighborhoods on an ongoing basis. And here to tell you more about the Columbus Care Coalition is our partner, our leader of the Columbus Care Coalition, Marian Stuckey. Marian.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Long. So when that triple homicide occurred in the Hilltop, so I was on that team that responded, that did the door-to-door response, and from that experience, we had the powerful knowledge that it's important that we reach out to communities and that we just make ourselves present. And that's where the seeds of the coalition were planted, opening that door of communication with those that are hurting, with those that have the skills and knowledge and the resources to help. And that's why we started the coalition. And I am extremely grateful for the wonderful partners that are on the coalition. It's been an amazing year coming together, and what we realize is that we're stronger together. We realize that we have the responsibility to work with communities that are overburdened by trauma, and we have the responsibility to help them become their best. So the CARE Coalition stands for Community, Action, Resilience, and Empowerment, and we plan to do all those things. With the dedication of our partners, we realize that trauma presents an opportunity for change. It presents an opportunity to do things differently, and we hope to maximize that as we surge ahead over the next year. We also recognize that trauma is happening outside of the walls of our agencies and our organizations, and it's up to us to do that outreach, to do that engagement that's going to help people engage in services, because we also found that some people will never go to get therapy. They'll never go to get counseling. It's just not something that they're used to doing, and it won't change now. So we just want to provide that engagement, that information, that encouragement to go and engage and seek services to help you create a better life, and that's our end goal. So as Dr. Long said, our main goals are awareness. We plan to do community engagement events. We plan to just listen and hear what's happening so we can better inform the work that we plan to do. We plan to support those who are experiencing trauma. We plan to respond within 48 hours of a traumatic incident, getting training so we are just able to do the best we can to support in that critical window where people need help. We know that 30 days is generally the window when traumatic symptoms can get worse. So we want to intervene within that 30-day period to do what we can to support resiliency. We'll also work on engagement, again, listening and hearing and engaging the community to be a part of our process. That's a huge part of what we hope to do. We realize as we come together as systems and residents that we can definitely be stronger in our coalition. And that being said, we know being stronger and coming together is a really important goal, and we are super thankful, very thankful to the City Council for allowing us this opportunity. And with that, I will turn it back over to President Klein.
Thank you, Marian, Dr. Long, and Delana. Thank you so much for being here and being part of the team. Just to close, just briefly, and then we'll do one-on-ones as needed. We do a very poor job in our country of addressing mental health issues. I don't think that's going to come as a surprise to anyone in this room. Whether it's the proliferation of drugs and drug treatment facility, lack of drug treatment facilities, or the fact of simply recognizing violence in a community as a traumatic event. We are hopeful that this program will grow and foster into something that could be a national model in dealing with traumatic events in our community. I want the people of Columbus to know, especially the people in Linden and Hilltop, that we recognize that their life situations are tough and that we want to make a difference. And this is a step in the right direction to address the mental health problems that people deserve to be treated for, to pull themselves out of the cycle of the problems from a mental health perspective especially, to get the opportunity that they deserve to succeed, especially our children who witness events both externally and internally on their home every single day and are just sometimes a victim of their own circumstances they were brought into life with. They need help, their families need help, and through the CARE Coalition and focusing on this neighborhoods, I am hopeful we can build a program that will provide the help that's needed so that everyone that deserves that chance of opportunity and success gets it. And just want to close by saying thank you to my colleagues for being supportive of this. And we look forward to growing this program hopefully over the next months and years and learning from our trials and tribulations of making a difference. Because we are going to make a difference in this community, and that's the way we do it in the city of Columbus. So thank you so much. Thank you.